YouTubers, Mike Martins here. Mike Martins channel bringing you another special edition of Housing Crisis. This one's going back to Toronto. We're bouncing back between Toronto and Vancouver because Vancouver's in the slums and Toronto's on fire. Get the gas and matches because Toronto is burning. Housing is through the roof, people. If you own a house in Vancouver and you bought 2 years ago, you are laughing today. You have probably doubled your money by now in the last year to 2 years. That's how fast housing has been going up in the last friggin' 3 months. Population growth isn't driving Toronto's house prices, so what is? Well, Toronto house prices have soared. The last census figures show population growth in the city has begun to slow. Kind of like Vancouver. A lot of vacant, remember that article I did 2 or 3 articles back about vacant homes in Vancouver? 25,000 vacant homes. That's not condos, that's houses. Last summer, in the frankest terms possible, Bank of Canada Governor Stephen Poloz warned home buyers and homeowners, mortgage lenders, and the real estate industry that nothing justified Toronto's skyrocketing housing prices. Nothing. Zip. Zilch. Nada. Toronto didn't get the message. In its recent outlook for 2017, the Toronto Real Estate Board said it expects the average price in Greater Toronto Area to surge by another 100 large this year to 825. That would be on top of the 120, or roughly 20% increase in 2016. In making its forecast, the board repeatedly credited one factor for driving higher prices in Toronto: population growth. Really? Let's see what it says. Well, earlier this week, Canadians got their first look at the results of the 2016 census when Statistics Canada released a population and dwelling counts for the country. And while the overall trend saw stronger population growth in urban centers, Toronto showing rather middling. Kind of like what's happening here with everyone leaving the main core of Vancouver and, how do they say here? Middling. Not meddling, middling. And that's what they're doing here, and this is what looks like is happening here. The population growth in Toronto census metropolitan considerably between the last 2 census periods. The city grew 6.2% over the 2011-2016 period compared to 9.2% between 2006 and 2011. In fact, it was the slowest census-to-census growth rate Toronto has experienced in the last 40 years. You can't afford to live there anymore. You leave. Source, Statistics Canada Maclean's. So there's a graph here. Very well detailed. There's a caveat. This is caveat. I don't even know what that means to mention here. Over time, the boundaries of Toronto Census Metropolitan Area, CMA, have expanded, and so some of the population increases in the past were partly result of its expansion. I don't know if you guys remember, in Toronto they were expanding and they were adding different regions, Etobicoke and other regions to the municipality of Toronto to make it bigger. However, StatsCan also said that an email that since the 1990s boundary changes have been minimal. Yet despite the city's modest population growth, Toronto only managed to top the national average by 1.2 percentage points. House prices have surged. Here's the same chart, but this time including real inflation adjusted. Housing prices growth between census years. Granted, the Toronto CMA covers a larger area is captured by Toronto Real Estate Board statistics, but as CMHC has noted, staggering price gains have spilled out of Toronto into its environs. Never has there been a 5-year stretch where Toronto's house prices have soared as fast as they did between 2011 and 2016. Wow, look at this. 50-cent percentage rate. Wow. That's 11 to 16. Wow. So I wasn't kidding. Pretty much double your money if you got in at the right time. So what's driving the market? Wild-eyed speculation, according to David Madani, an economist of capital economics and noted housing bear. Madani released a report Friday saying that imbalances in the housing market are worsening and could become a drag on the nation's long-term growth. Investment in housing, which has supported the Canadian economy. Again, just like my last one, my Vancouver one, the bubble has burst. I'm going to say this again very clearly so you understand. Investment in housing, which has supported the Canadian economy. You don't build an economy off housing. You live in housing. You set roots in housing. You raise families in housing. You don't gamble a country's future or gamble a country's prospects on real estate. It's production, exports. Not just oil, it's all the minerals. It's production. It's selling overseas. It's creating, fabricating. Do you understand what I'm saying? That is very important. You do not hinge everything like Alberta did on oil. Investment in housing, which has supported the Canadian economy throughout recent tough patches, has reached and remains near record highs. So it's paper on wealth. People are creating paper on wealth. Wealth on paper. However, the peak may have come. Madani pointed to decline in housing sales in Vancouver, which have fallen 44% since February 2016. What did I tell you guys? Nothing that the macroeconomic shock explains the drop. Mortgage rates, okay, one step back again. 44% since February 2016. Nothing that the macroeconomic shock explains the drop. Nothing explains the drop in Vancouver. I think these guys better pick up a newspaper and see what's, Mortgage rates remain incredibly low, despite mortgage rules being tightened by Ottawa. Meanwhile, employment growth has been relatively strong in the city. He has also argued that the foreign buyer tax introduced last August doesn't fully explain the collapsed sales either. We simply think that the housing bubble has burst, he wrote. Housing bubbles are, of course, inherently unstable because they are largely driven by unpredictable investor mania. That's the same in the other article I read. And that brings us back to Toronto's housing market, which Madani believes is being driven by increasingly riskier lending practices that average home loans and ballooned relative to household incomes, he said. While mortgage lending is shifting away from traditional banks to unregulated firms. Watch out for them firms, people. You get these jumbo loans and elephant loans that they pay off all your debts and all this stuff. Watch out for that, because once the interest rate starts moving, you start to run. All of this should be a concern for Toronto as well as the Canadian economy at large. He concludes the abrupt slowdown in Vancouver's housing market should serve as a warning shot. As things stand now, the economy's performance this year could hinge on Toronto's overheating housing market. Really, really, really bad move, and some of it was taken from the last article I read if you watched all my videos. But this ties in together because Toronto's I think it's still one of the biggest cities in Canada. And for people living in the States, Toronto's like the size of Atlanta. I think Atlanta's still bigger than Toronto, but if you've been to Atlanta, Toronto's about that big. 3.3 million metropolitan Toronto. So Atlanta's about around that much, if not more. I don't know if it's gotten more in the last 5 to 6 years, but anyways, I just wanted to put this out there because back to what I said from 20, 40 videos ago, from 2-3 years ago, it's investors leaving the foreign investors leaving the province of British Columbia and moving out east. My east from where I am to Toronto and picking up a relatively cheaper properties there and basically fueling the market. And that is what has happened. I strongly believe that this is what's happening, right? So I just wanted to put this out there. I just wanted to know what you guys think about this. It's kind of somewhat of a big deal to see how the ripple, the wave, comes from the east to the west. You know what I'm saying? From my east to, you know what I mean. Anyways, but you get where I'm going here, right? From the west to the east, or whatever you want to say. Anyways, I sound like an idiot. But what I'm saying, I'm trying to be frank with you guys. There is a lot of underlying things that are happening, a lot of crooked mortgages, a lot of people trying to buy in. And the people that suffer are the working poor and the working class, the working poor class. Middle class is gone in Canada. You could kiss the middle class. It's gone. There's no middle class in Canada. It's working poor. And the working poor, in my opinion, basically is the one that bites the dust, or the one that pays the tab, or picks up the tab, or the ones that, you know, that have to basically pay for this. Anyways, guys, let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you guys commenting below. I try to reply to everybody as quick as possible, and I appreciate that constructive. This channel is built off criticism and productive and constructive that tend and pretend, or has pretenses to what we're talking about. And there's some really good conversations we have going on here, and I like that a lot. People replying to each other and talking to each other. I mean, that means a lot to me, you know, that we could have a small group of people that are in tune to what's going on, and kind of giving out our opinions on things, you know what I'm saying? Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget the subscribe button, and tell your friends about this. Thanks for watching. Bye.